Few people already here, that's nice. I'll wait until I pop up. I've been getting into the thumbnails of, face close-ups. I think I'll continue doing that, but who knows? Something fun, something nice. I've never done it before. And, am I live? 30 seconds already. Come on, YouTube. Ah, here I am. I'm live. It's the Nazarite bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. Okay, so Bloodnose is here. Hello, Bloodnose. Sneezer is here, and there was someone else? No? Okay, so what's a Woozlez? A very good question. And that is the point of the Woozlez. It causes you to ask. Okay. And he said, good to see you, Jonathan. I hope you are well. See you in a minute. Indeed, I am well on this fine Wednesday. How are you, good people? Share something that's happened to you today or this evening or whatever the case may be. Do Woozlez wuzzle? No, they do not wuzzle, but they do buzzle. And they guzzle, but they don't wuzzle. And they don't woozle either. Okay. Sneezer says, Shalom everyone, been a minute. In a minute, namanina, senamana. Happy Wednesday Woozlez. Yes, indeed, happy Wednesday Woozlez to us all. Hey, there you go, getting into the spirit. Have we freed Palestine yet?
Go to hell.
Who's we, I guess is the question. So, let's see, I'll continue the chat from Monday, towards the end where I had to go. So let's continue. Hey, Robert is here, hello. Honey Robert, I'm woozling away. Very good, Robert. Okay, nice to have you here, Robert. So Robert said, speaking of Robert, you can't get drunk. Some say you can have a drink or two. Now that was obviously in reference to something that we were talking about at the time. And people were talking about the whole David versus Jesus. Who would you want to meet? I guess there are good reasons for both if you're going to meet a historical figure or a biblical figure. Bong says, I'd like to meet Samson and tell him not to trust that hoe. Well, it was all for the reason of having him fight Plishtim. Sorry, who is dead? Said Sneezer. Samson is dead too. Right, these people are all dead, right? We were talking about, I don't think anybody says that they are alive, or not anybody. What I mean to say is, the question was, are they alive or not? The question was, who would you want to meet? Yes, exactly. James Bong says he asked what biblical figure he would like to meet. Pretty sure most, if not all, are dead or with God, he said. Sneezer said, Samson knew not to trust her, but they were married. Right, they were married. That was, man, what a trip. Until she kept pestering him about, what's the deal with the hair? What's the deal? So Sneezer said, why would you rather meet David than Jesus? Well, I suppose simply because of the way that I grew up, right? I'm a Hebrew man. I grew up in Jerusalem, modern Orthodox. My go-to would be so many other people before Jesus. And this is not to say anything against the man. It's simply not in my go-to. Or at least, I would say not at all, but not in my go-to right then, right, last week. Pity how few of you know the living God, said Sneezer. Now, I understand the sentiment, and I know where it's coming from, right, to the degree that I could. I'm not you. To know the living God, right? Knowledge implies making a connection that breeds something new. A union. Now, we are taught, right, according to the Torah, Lo yirani ha'adam v'chaya, man cannot see me and live, right? Because he is the living God, as it were. We who are living, ironically, cannot perceive him. To know God is to know the divine attributes, to know the relationship between the different emanations and the way that we are embodying them and how we mirror each other. That's how I see it. That living God, right? Chai HaChayim, the one who is alive among those who are living. So you say it's a pity how few of you know the living God. And while I understand what you mean, or again, like I said, I understand it through my lens, right? I think that it's a very intimate and personal thing, and how few of you know the living God. If you're talking about Jesus, about Yeshua, I'd say, okay, you can take pity on me. Many Christians do, and many non-Christians. And I'm cool with that. Pity me then. There are many reasons to pity me, I'm sure. And I don't deny that there are times when I'm willfully ignorant and blind. Yes, don't have this exchange like this. CM asked, do you see a difference in how God reveals himself to you when you restrict practice, or now that you are on another path? Well, I see my path as a continuation of that strict practice. In other words, I make no, let's not have two ways about it. I don't keep as strict halacha nowadays, but I don't see that as something which is opposing to the way I was living then. It was simply, well, I think it's part of the same meta path. I guess that's how I would see it. But do I see a difference in how God reveals himself? Do I see a difference? Well, yes, I do. Because now the revelation is through that vow. I'm very much doing the same things that I've always done. There's something about it once I took the vow where the place, let's say, where I was aiming was changing. Or the path towards the same goal, the same aim, was changing. Do I see a difference? Yes and no. Yes and no. That's such a good question. I mean, yes. Without a doubt, yes. Simply, practically speaking, physically, right? Forget the spiritual. The way that life opened up itself to me, the way opportunities presented themselves, the way certain things lined up. Now, this can all go to hell at any minute, but the way things lined up, began to line up, it was a process of several years. After I took that vow, just about, 15 years ago, 14, 15 years ago, that vow changed the way that, not that God was revealed to me, but I'm the one who changed. So the difference was all coming down through this prism, right, of the Nazarite ship. I don't know. It's such a good question. Yes and no. Why am I having such a difficult time with this question? I'll read it again and I'll answer more plainly. I'm sorry for the rant and the oohs and ums and ahs, and it's an interesting question. Do I see a difference? It's like, I see a difference in me, a profound difference. And that means that the way that things are coming to me is equal to that. Because it's through that lens, it's through that being, through this vow. It's encompassed so many parts of my being, from how I feel to the way that I look. And yet in some ways, I keep doing the same things I did for many years, even as a strict Orthodox, right? I still have the ongoing dialogue with the Most High God. And I'm, Shabbos, festivals, kashrut, veganism, which I also see as part of the kashrut and of the Nazarite ship. It's like, God has revealed to me in all of these things, and these things are working through me. And so it is very different. On the other hand, this is a path where the Nazarite, that's why I said it's not as opposed to being modern Orthodox. It was simply a different, a more personal and intimate path. And the revelation is that more personal and that more intimate. I think that's the best way of putting it. You can forget everything I just said and focus on that one line. The relationship became more personal and intimate to me, and so the revelation in kind is more personal and intimate. That's the best way to put it. Wow, what a ramble. But CM, I mean, this was from last week. I don't think he's watching, he or she. But that is such a good question. Let's go to the chat now, see if there's anything there. Hey, James Bong is here. Wait, was he here before? No, he wasn't. Shalom, because I read something from last week. But Jesus died for you. What did David do for you? Well, Jesus died for me, says you. I simply say Jesus died. And as for what David did, David is considered to be the embodiment of Malchut, of the final divine emanation, if you will. The place that once upon a time it was higher, and now it's become the 10th one, the lower Sphira. It has nothing of its own. It's like the moon, only getting light from an external source. That idea, like I said, of the warrior poet, the man who wrote Sefer Tehillim, or the Book of Psalms, the one who brought the Ark of the Covenant to rest in the city of David. It wasn't such a, well, let's leave it at that. David fought. He led a life according to the scripture, right? It's so mixed up. And he is, I think, somebody who would be fascinating to talk to. The living God is only part of God, says Sneezer, the living part. So the living, right, because that's why I said Chai HaChaim, the one who is alive among the living. There is the idea of life as opposed to death, a duality. And then there's the idea of life as such, as a singularity. Not as opposed to death, life and death, but the tree of life sort of life, where we are one, and death is lifted and taken away from existence. And so when you say that the living part, I'm curious what you mean by that, because that's what I would mean. That's what I meant. How do you mean it when you say the living God? Not as opposed to the dead part of God. So how do you mean it? I'm curious. Do you dream at night a lot? Do I dream a lot? Do I remember my dreams? I dream on a regular basis. I dream on a regular basis. So I don't necessarily dream insofar as that I remember a lot, but I dream a lot because it's regular and ongoing, and sometimes very vivid dreams. Is Radiohead your favorite band? Yes, it is. I mean, currently playing. I'd have to say it's Pink Floyd first, Radiohead second. And what is Pinky getting for Hanukkah? I think that Pinky will be getting some treats. I'll get her some treats at the pet food store. I live with angry pagans, says James Bong. Well, it's one thing to be pagan, but why do they have to be angry? Do you mean angry pagans, that they're actually angry? There's a... Sneezer says, you don't know Jesus died for you only because you misread the gospel. You should read it again with your new understandings. Jesus fought heretics. Okay. I didn't say he didn't. I might read the gospel again at some point. Which new understandings? Do you mean specific understandings insofar as you and I have been in a dialogue, or do you mean simply after all this time? Because it's been 3 years or 4 years since my one reading of the gospel. Pinky is the way, the life, and the way. This is the way. So I saw today that there was going to be a Mando and Grogu Is it a full-length feature? Is it a short film? I don't know, but some sort of film. Is that true? Is that real? Was that a hoax? Does anyone know? Saneezer says the complete God cannot be fully known inside time, but Jesus can. Okay, so you're talking about Jesus, I suppose, as somebody who is a part of God, who came down here, right? Who lived and died and lived again, as Christians and followers of Jesus say. And that's again where I draw the line, not a part of God. Jesus can be known. I see. And the complete God cannot be fully known inside time, as you mentioned before. Yes, you understand my perspective enough to understand the gospel. Acknowledged. Well, I wouldn't be so sure. I mean, I'm thank you for the vote of confidence. I don't know if I would read it. Well, I guess I would have to see whenever I read it again if certain things that you had said throughout our dialogue have, influenced how I read it or understand it. Now, let me ask you. You said at some point about a month ago that you might be moving on, and you drop by a channel, spend some time there, and get involved, and then move on. And I'm curious, do you have prospects, right? Do you have prospective channels that you're looking at, places that you want to invest time in, like you have been so generous in contributing your time in these live streams for months now? And I'm curious if you're looking at anyone in particular, or do you have a vetting process? How long was the shortest time that you stayed on a channel before moving on versus the most amount of time you've been on a channel? Exactly, he said. Bloodnose said, I think we cannot see God because we'll see who we are, and will therefore no longer exist. You mean exist in the same way that we exist here and now in this reality? That's definitely something. Exist? Do you mean in physical form, corporeal form, or do you mean exist as such, like be conscious, be? We couldn't be. Not particularly, said neither. The spirit guides me. Usually I only stay while welcome, rarely move on beforehand. You're the new record. I see. So we won't exist in the body, we will be like pure spirit. In this, right, in part of the spiritual plane, or planes. Lo yir'ani ha'adam v'chai, right? A person cannot see me and live. Let's continue with the chat from Monday. Man, that question from CM was a good question. Mr. Big says, what are the Gentiles here for at the end of days? Who do they serve? Well, far be it from me to say what the rest of the billions of people on earth are here for. Certainly not ever, and not at the end of days. As for who they serve, I do not know. Different external teachings, midrash, and legend, agadah, and folklore, and things from the Talmud, many of them have spoken of this end of days. There's also a difference between Ketz Hayamim with a mem, a final mem, and Ketz Hayamin with a final nun, like it says in Daniel, Ketz Hayamin, and not Ketz Hayamim. The end of days, right? When we get to Shabbos, that's literally the end of days. That's partaking of the tree of life, partaking of the Edenic Sabbath. That's the last day. That's the end of days. As for who they serve, there are different prophecies in the Bible, but I'll just go with the very simple, whomever they choose. We have free will. That's where it breaks down. To that, you, here, now, make a better choice, make a smarter decision, choose a healthier path. Who do they serve? Whomever they choose. I don't know what anybody will be, doing at the end of days. Not the Jews nor the Gentiles. And who will serve whom and in what capacity? I have zero idea. All I have is the here and now. all I have is the here and now. But I hope, I dare to hope and pray for a time when we will be able to come together. All of us, right? One human race. Make our way back to Eden. Complete the task. They will also serve Hashem. Right? So it says in the prophecies that at the end, right, there's one prophecy, is it in one of the 12, one of the Tresau? I don't recall, that many people from the nations will hold to the hem of the garment of a person of, right, a Yehudi, a person of Judea, of Judah, and say, right, teach us your ways. But yes, service to God, which also means service to each other. Ay, love thy God, love thy neighbor. Sneezer says, but how can you not see Jesus was greater than David? Oh, as far as I'm concerned, you can say Jesus was greater than David. Okay. All I said was that traditionally, David is considered to be the greatest king in Israel. Gedol Malchei Israel. Now, you could, and people do, make many arguments against the way he's portrayed in the Bible. And I'm saying that he's the embodiment of a certain divine attribute. And as such, he, as a character, let's say, as a person, as a character in this Hebrew Bible, went through what he went through. He arrived at the lowest point. He arrived at Malchut, that place that has no light of its own. The king, he was given the kingship. He was able to lead the people of Israel, and unlike Saul before him, he was more loyal. Or, I shouldn't say more loyal. There was something about King David where he was able to rule in a more complete manner, if you will. And even he was barred from building the temple, even though he really wanted to. The prophet tells him, go do whatever is in your heart, Adonai is with you. And then God tells him, no, your son will. Can't always get what you want. Like I said, it's not a question of who was greater than Jesus or not. It's a question of David as I perceive him through the Bible and through what's written and not written, and through the Psalms, right, as in particular. He is risen, says Goosebumps. Hi, Goosebumps. Good to see you again. No, David was a pale shadow of Jesus in his time. Okay, maybe, but in his time, he was what he was. Robert said to Mr. Big, Yeshua HaMashiach Achi, Jesus is the anointed one. James Bong says, David is better than Jesus because David was real. Again, you can make the argument that Jesus was or wasn't real, David was or wasn't real, they're all characters, it's all myth, it's all fairy tales, which is why, again, to me it comes down to here and now. Now what? Prove it, Sneezer says to James Bond. How about, he retorts, how about archaeological finds that prove, LOL, where is this for Jesus? Sneezer says, how many people did David heal? How many enemies did he forgive? James Bond says, oh, that's right, all that comes after his death by Rome. Sneezer said to James Bong, you made the claim David is more real than Jesus, so prove it. James Bong says, I just did. Rome didn't plant archaeological evidence of David, but there is none for Jesus. Sneezer says, no, but maybe Jews did. No, but, says James Bong. There is less proof of David, said Sneezer. And Robert says, didn't know you were Jewish, James Bong. Wait, did I miss someone or something? No, okay. James Bong says, Tel Dan inscription, the city of David excavation, etc. And what do you have? A Middle Ages shroud made by Leonardo da Vinci. Right, there was what is it called? I
forgot the name of the shroud. I watched a video on that. Was it proven that it was actually Leonardo da Vinci, or is that a hypothesis? And he said to James Bong, you use the rubble Jesus made to prove David the builder? You use the rubble Jesus made to prove David the builder. So if I understand you correctly, at the time you said something like, it's backwards, right? Because you use the rubble Jesus made to prove David the builder. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, neither did James Bond. Jesus destroyed the temple, Sneezer says to James Bond, and you use the temple to disprove Jesus instead of proving its builder? No, he didn't, says James Bond, but if you believe that, more power to you. And that's where it ended. Oh, wait, and then he said, prove it. Is that it? Hang on. Oh, James Bond said, and that's where it ends, the fact that the Gospels were written after this Jesus dude died is a pretty good guess when looking back into history and writing about it, LOL. Okay, Solomon built the temple, right, oh, so the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin, yes, that was it. KJB is here. Hello, KJB. KJB left me the most wonderful comment today or yesterday or the day before. He said that what you know comes out in your ramblings, and you're answering questions that I've had spiritually. A very short comment, but I love it. It's because, yeah, I rant and I ramble, and I'm this live stream thing. It's raw and it has its drawbacks, but occasionally I'll say something of value, and that is good because it helps me think, right? And it maybe is good for some people along the way. The dialogue stimulates me. I don't have many pre-packaged answers, though I dare say I have one or two up my sleeve to some things, but more often than not, you people cause me to think, to see things from your point of view a little bit, you know, to open up to certain questions, and it's lovely, and I thank you. And I thank you, KJB, for that lovely comment. It's really great to get that sort of very simple and plain feedback of, it's like, yeah, you ramble, but some things come out in your ramblings that have some, you know, that have something to them, and they mean something to me. And that was a great comment to see. Okay. Robert says, this was when they were about 10 minutes ago or so. He said, you can't see God and live, but you can be in his presence. Yes, his presence. There's a masculine presence and a feminine presence, right? There's the way that God reveals himself through the tree of life. So yes, you can definitely be in his presence. Bloodnose says, I think we've all been in his presence, Robert Harrison. Hopefully, he replied to Bloodnose. Bloodnose says, I've noticed a lot more about the inner light since meeting Jonathan. So Bloodnose, what do you mean by inner light? I'm curious. KJB says, for me, Jesus clarified and condensed what is already in the Old Testament, maybe personified it too, and gave more detail and revelation of end times. The Father's always first, most high. The Son is brought forth at the right time. So what was it, do you think, at the time, KJB, where that was the time when the Son was supposed to be revealed? What do you think was going on there? What is it about the nature of those times of the Second Temple towards its destruction when you feel that Jesus was sent into the world? I'm curious. Sneezer says, but a king is far below any prophet even. Here's the thing. Yes, the king is lower, but he gets everything that comes from above. from the priests and the Levites there, right, and the sages and the prophets. It all comes down and is condensed, right, and put into Malchut. And there is, depending on the nature of the relationships along the way, that Malchut, which has nothing of its own, it is able to awaken and seduce the masculine presence and bring about unity. The king, David, is the fourth leg of the chariot of the Merkava. He is the culmination of the 10 Sfirot. That place that was once high and now is low, but will be high once again. And the moon will shine like the sun, and the sun will shine like the 7 days of Breshit. 7 days of creation. Not 6 days, 7 days. The sun will be like Shabbos, the moon will be like the sun. That prophecy is spot on in the way that the king, because he receives all of this, can shine brighter than any one of those single points. Because it's coming to a place that's so low, right, at the bottom. It needs to shine and be with a force that much greater in order to send that divine energy back and awaken with this great anticipation and desire the masculine presence. Bring about union. So you can say the king is lower than a prophet, sure. But the king has the opportunity to receive it from everything, from all of the different tribes, from all of the different prophets. And he is able to provide judgment. Malchut is din. Malchut is associated with the feminine, the lower feminine, and with judgment and wrath and the left hand, the left side. And it's with that fire of din and of the left side that it can be not a fire that consumes and blackens and chars, but it's a fire of love. It's a fire that consumes all wrongdoing. It's a fire that will eventually bring about the death of death. It's that warm, all-enveloping, good vibrations fire that is ignited within you when there's true unity. Whether it's an aha moment in your mind or whether it's intimate relations with somebody who you are in love with. The king can do all of this. He's the culmination of this, and he can pass judgment. And he needs the people, right? En melech belo am. There is no king without subjects. So, okay. Sneezer says, you don't think sitting on a cross is darker than the places David reached? I think it's a very dark place. Definitely. Yes. Why do you insist on making a comparison? Why do you insist on, is it a comparison or contrasting them, whatever it is? Contrasting them. Whatever it is, I'm trying to understand. Pardon. Robert says, I heard there was a coin found with King Solomon's image on it, killing the devil. Hit the like button, says Robert Harrison. Thank you, I appreciate that. It's said that Solomon had many dealings with Ashmedai, the king of the demons. The Midrash has several of these stories, Agadah, Midrash, on the dealings between Ashmedai and King Solomon. Read up on them; they're interesting. There is one point when Ashmedai gets him good. Oh wait, it just jumped. Where am I? Where am I? Oh man. Here, okay. The Shroud of Turin, said Bloodnose, it was someone who was crucified, no way to prove if Christ. The Shroud of Turin. So wait, what about it? Was it Da Vinci? I mean, he said Da Vinci. Or one of you said Da Vinci.
Good night.
You going to bed?
Mhm.
Good night, baby. Brush your teeth. Sweet dreams.
After this.
Yes, obviously after that. Proud of you, baby. Okay. That dude has a packed schedule, man. He's doing the responsible thing. Good for him. Okay. The Torah was written after Moses and was likewise any Hebrew texts. Well, there is the opinion that parts of the Torah were written later, right? The multiple author, right? The multiple author hypothesis. And as far as I'm concerned, Moses wrote the Torah. You could, I suppose, argue over this part, that part, but I take it very much at face value that there was a revelation to Moses at Sinai and to the children of Israel at Sinai, and he wrote the Torah. Is it exactly, precisely the very same Torah that exists in the everyday shul? There are differences between them, after all, so I can't say for a fact that it's precisely 100%, but the Torah is such an ancient thing. Relative to different texts, it's pretty ancient. And barely any differences between them. So, to those who say that it was written after Moses, I say, okay, Moses could be a figment of an author's imagination. It's the here and now that I care about. What do I do with it now? How long ago did you see documentary on Jesus? I think, Robert, you sent me something not long, or someone sent me something. How long ago did I watch a documentary on Jesus? I have no idea. I don't know. I think maybe the last thing I saw in connection to that was somebody who said he had knowledge of the Ark of the Covenant, something to do with the seat of mercy. I don't recall. A long time since I've seen any documentary, for that matter. Unless you count Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii. I've seen that again recently. Ugh. Okay. Bloodnose, said Sneezer. Bloodnose, look up modern research on it. The fibers were literally burned ever so slightly by the body. This doesn't happen in any other burial wraps. Furthermore, key wounds can be identified like the crown of thorns and side pierce. Voila. Bloodnose says Dr. John Campbell on YouTube did a great recent documentary on it, Sneezer. That was the video he was thinking of, he says. The inner light, said Sneezer, was first made before the sun and stars. I'm inclined to agree. Bloodnose says the inner light of being, the hope and the light we see when we have absolutely nothing left to live for. Wow. I mean, speaking of dark, that can be very dark. But it's really good to be anchored, if you will, with within that sort of being. He gets it, but he'll misunderstand it, said Sneezer. Robert Harrison asks, do you feel your Levite locks contain power? Well, I don't know what you mean by Levite locks, but I know that I felt certain power, and when I say power, I don't mean power. I meant me channeling a power. Not that I had power, I was just channeling it. When I had my long side curls, that was something where I felt it was really helping to ground me. My payas, my side curls, that once again, I had long hair, I shaved it off except for just a touch over here, and I grew them out from scratch, from zero, from like 1 or 2 millimeters. It was quite a journey growing side curls, and I did so for, 6 years? And I never shaved them off. They're still here. It's just that I grew my hair out. That's part of what I'm saying when I said, right, from modern Orthodox to what I am now. It was just a continuation. My payas are still here. It's just the hair grew all around them. Now, if you mean Levite locks, because I suppose that's what I considered them then, I didn't give it that name, but if you mean the Nazarite hair, I feel it channels certain energy, or it has the capacity to. It's just hair, right? It's just a physical thing. It will live and die, and most of it's dead, right? The root is alive, that whole thing. Let's have no two ways about that. But it contains the capacity for channeling certain divine energy, right? Same as the side curls. Same as the tribe of Levi themselves, right? The priests and the Levites, the right and the left. They channel certain things. Contain power? They don't contain. I think that looking a certain way, acting a certain way, Torah and commandments and that whole thing, it's an invitation that you're sending out for life to open up to you in that way. And it's not a question of whether it contains power. I think if you're talking about, right, power, energy, that's all around us in different forms. But what is it that we are inviting into our lives? So when you look a certain way or act a certain way or speak a certain way, if you're this tribe or that tribe and you are able to embody that tribe's essence, you will draw certain divine energies, right, and hopefully, right, manifesting through you. And being able to be blessed and to be a blessing. So do I feel that Levite locks contain power? No. But I feel if somebody is a Levite and they grow their hair, if you meant the Nazarite ship, then the Nazarite ship. And if not, then maybe if they're a Levite and they feel they want to grow their hair since they affiliate themselves with the left side. I think it has the capacity to do very good things. It's all about how it is that you are going about it. Okay, like Shimshon. No, I don't think I have the strength of Samson, but I think I am working on becoming stronger. And in that sense, maybe it is like Shimshon. Sneezer says, under fair judgment, all are evil, all but God. All are evil. I disagree. Like on general principle, because evil came into the world as far as Bereshit, right, biblically speaking. Evil came into being. Not the capacity for evil, but actual evil, right, with the serpent. And with what happened there, and now we are in a world of good and evil. But the living God is merciful, far, far more than we deserve. There is indeed a revelation of mercy, of chesed, right? The open hand, like the chamsa, the hand that's always giving. Hey, Be Calm and Drink Coffee was here, but he retracted his message. He said something 10 minutes ago. Robert says, but we know through the Tanakh, not all kings of Israel did what El Elyon wanted. That is correct. At the time of the kings, most of the kings, right, there was still what's called Yetzer de Avodah Zarah, which means the inclination for foreign worship or idol worship. And that's something that I can't really conceive of, I can't really perceive it, because it's been in many ways removed, at least from Israel, at least to the degree that sort of biblically speaking, it was removed. I think it was the Navi Zechariah. In the Talmud, it says that they wanted the evil inclination of foreign worship, of idol worship, of Avodah Zarah, to be taken away from the world. And so they convened, right, the sages, and they prayed. They did what they did, and up there was a lion's cub of fire, I think, that came out of the holiest of holies, And then Novi Zachariah said, that right there is the embodiment of the evil inclination of foreign worship. Grab it. I don't remember where they put it, but the inclination and the will, the desire, the drive, the need, the like really all-encompassing want to worship foreign idols or to worship in a foreign way, that was, generally speaking, taken away. Afterwards, it's said, they saw that it was a time when God was doing their bidding. The divine revelation was showing them favor. And so they prayed again. And they said, we want the inclination, right, the sexual inclination to be taken away. And then that happened as well. A few days later, they needed an egg. And for a patient, right, for somebody who was ill, who was sick, they needed an egg, and they couldn't find one. The chickens had stopped having sex because the sexual desire, drive, was taken away from the world, it said. So they said, well, if we do this, the world is done. So what should we do? And so it's said that they took out its eyes and they let it go. And taking out its eyes meant, if I remember correctly, that this is why there is no inclination to engage in incest, or something about incestuous relationships. I mean, that takes that turn right at the end, if I'm not mistaken. But the time of the kings of Judah and Israel, it was a time of so much strife and so much war. And yes, there was the inclination, the drive, the need. I must worship Baal right now. I really wanna. Oh, and look, there's an altar right there. Oh, look at all these people over here. Hey, let's have a party and worship Baal. You know, I'm not going to judge these people. Definitely not going to judge these people. They were some tough cookies. So, not all kings of Israel did what El Elyon wanted. Not all kings of Judah did what El Elyon wanted either. However, they had choice, they had free will. Nevertheless, at the end of the day, there was a drive to do all kinds of things, and times were hard, to say the least. War and strife, civil war, I mean, right? And war between the kingdoms and the war between the external enemies. So it's true. But the king does have the capacity to shine. And that's why David, despite his faults, is considered to be the fourth leg of the Merkava, the fourth leg of the chariot, the embodiment of Malchut. Okay, let's continue. So Nezer says, because you're not supposed to follow the dead, wish to meet them, etc., like you do with David. You're not supposed to follow the dead, wish to meet them, etc. Well, no, lo lidrosh el hametim. And Jesus isn't, though you think him to be. I do. I do think him to be. So Nezer says, Jesus is the real King of the Jews and King of kings. Only by him are we made kings. Now, is that to say that, let's say before, for the sake of argument, if you're saying that, let's say I was a follower of Jesus now, but what about before the time of Jesus? What about the people before him? What do you consider them to be? If you're saying that Jesus is the only one who makes us kings, then before Jesus walked the earth, according to you, Nezer, who were the righteous folk? Who were the kings before the King of Kings, as you say, was there? What king did David make? God gave him his sons. Well, I don't understand the question, man. Robert says, in Orthodox, did King Solomon go to heaven? Well, what do you mean? I haven't heard otherwise. I don't think I've heard otherwise. So Nezer says, Moses didn't write the Torah. He wasn't nearly smart enough. Yes, he physically wrote it down. I didn't say he came up with it. I said he wrote it down. It was revealed to him. He was channeling it, and then at the end he wrote on a scroll, gave it to the tribe of Levi, gave it to the other tribes. So yes, divinity was working through Moses. Moses, that is that higher form of man, right? In the way that it's in the tree of life. He is that higher form of the middle pillar. The great bridge, as I like to call him. No human combines letters into words, preserving the letter's meaning, or literally writes all of eternity in one word, the first Bereshit. Heaven isn't a place, it's an understanding. Well, yes, but insofar as that's what people call it heaven. The state of heaven is understanding everything, and the state of hell, misunderstanding love, said Sneezer. Robert says, how has my father, Ira, been? He's been doing well as far as I can tell. We're all as well as can be with this war. Sneezer says, by evil I mean those who disobeyed the commandments. Humankind is made to break rules. Yes, break rules, bend rules, adhere to rules, choose their rules, accept the yoke of rules. No honest man can say they never envied another, said Sneezer. No one is innocent of hating a neighbor. Okay, so not like... So I see what you mean when you say evil. That everyone is evil, yes. Has the capacity for evil, has an evil side, a dark side. I understand what you mean. Even God smote the people around Noah's time. Yes, but that was the last time. It's like that won't happen again. Be freak, hey be freak. How do we think now a monarchy is so redundant? I have no king but God. A monarchy can definitely be redundant. Like I like to say that we don't need a king, we don't need priests, we don't need Levites, we don't need a temple. But those are tools, right? They are the ways and means to a greater end. Now we can also work with knowing ourselves and be able to go straight without all the, let's say, animal sacrifices and all that. It doesn't necessarily need to make a comeback. What does need to make a comeback is who we are. That is not ever redundant. All of the intermediaries, kings, prophets, and priests, and Levites, and sages, and these are all not created by default. In the beginning in Eden, right, it was just mankind, nature, God. There were no priests and no Levites, and no kings and no prophets, no Jews or Gentiles. And that is what is not redundant. So how do we think now? A monarchy is so redundant. I have no king but God, which is what Samuel tells them. He tells them, you have a king. Adonai is your king. Don't seek a person of flesh and blood. So, it's not necessary, but for a king to come now, unite the tribes, bring peace to the region, build the temple, a vegan temple, that would be a great thing. That would be a very good thing. It would mean that we would merit the coming and the anointing of this Messiah. And that already says a lot. That speaks volumes. Bee freak. Now, are you a beekeeper or do you just dig bees? Also, bees, what type of bees? That's why God, said Sneezer, had to come in the form of Jesus. Hey, Eiler is here. Salute. To be known and to guide rightly. Well, I understand that you mean that's why God had to come in a body. But I do not believe that God comes in a body. I believe that there is the body of a human being as the image of God. If you want to make the claim that Jesus was the image of God, I'd say, okay, yes, but not a form of God. As you know, I don't abide by that. though I understand what you're saying. Wrote it in English suggests creating. Yes, there was creating. I'm thinking what he received in his mind's eye, in his prophecy. What came down as the physical scroll that was written was just right that final stop. Right? There's a hierarchy. And the written form is like the final one there. Right? Using ink on animal skins. Or whatever it was, right? Using a form, right? A tool, using something that was alive and processed, right? And killed and processed to become the parchment. So suggests creating, yes. But Moses was, that's why he was once in creation was Moses. Hey, Mark is here. Hey, Mark. Oh, it jumped again. Hang on a second. Here. Mark says they just want gratification and validation that their beliefs are correct and your beliefs are wrong, and that they are more righteous than you because they profess to love Jesus Christ so much. Well, I mean, I don't know about that. I understand what you're saying. They profess their love, and so they are more righteous. But there are people, I'm sure, who do that. But I'm also, I know for a fact that there are people who, like I said, I get it. I get the Christians who want everybody to follow Jesus. I get it. I know what they're talking about. I understand where they're coming from. I don't follow Jesus, but I understand where they're coming from. They have discovered this great, wonderful thing, a real path, right? A way to know God and to be guided down the path of righteousness, as Sneezer put it, to be known and to guide rightly. They discovered, right, the way to know God and be guided in righteousness rightly. That is a wonderful thing, and they are interested in spreading the news and spreading the good word and have others join them because they are just overflowing with this, not a need that you be like me, but a need to simply gush, and I don't mean that in the pejorative, in any derogatory way. I mean, it's just something that spills out of them because they are living this idea. They are embedded in this consciousness of this is happening, this is now. I'm following this path, and it is giving me so much wonder and contentment, and I want others to be that way, in their way. I understand where they're coming from. So let's see. He says they want gratification and validation. I think that's something that we share. We all want gratification and validation to some degree. Now, I don't happen to think that my beliefs are correct as opposed to others who are incorrect. And for being more righteous, again, like I've said, I've spoken to people like that. So I hear what you're saying. I don't know if it's necessarily everyone here in the chat, not at all. Bloodnose says, is Netanyahu trying to be the Messiah? Can he be? Well, he's not Messiah until he is physically anointed. Is he trying to be Messiah? I have no idea. I know he's trying to lead the state of Israel. Can he be? If people anoint him with oil, he will be anointed. Sneezer says, Mork, not at all. He's the one who thinks himself better. Those who know Jesus know themselves only scum. Well, I'll tell you, serving, whether it's Jesus or, being in the service of Adonai, that idea of humility is a good thing. Ella, hi Ella, good to see you again. Everything comes from inside, including evil. So how do we get rid of evil? Choose good. Yes. Yes, Rav Kook says, right, the pure righteous folk, they don't take away from the darkness, they add light. Or something, I'm paraphrasing. Right? You don't chase away darkness with sticks, as the phrase goes. Sneezer says to Ella, good has to grow from something. Understanding grows from misunderstanding. Good is understanding, evil is misunderstanding. Good has to grow from something. Is nothing inherently good, Sneezer, by that rationale? One cannot choose to understand, he says. One can only choose to do and speak honestly. Right, I think that many times understanding and making connections happens of its own accord when you act and speak with truth, right, and honesty and righteousness. Obviously, it's not going to be 100%, but the more you practice it, the more it becomes second nature. In my experience, to just act, in truth, in the truth of the matter. And when your ignorance is revealed, because it will be, because you don't know everything, and there's a lot more that you don't know than what you do know. When your ignorance is revealed, hopefully it will only have to be revealed once. And then you will know yet another truth. Causing significantly less evil when you choose to speak and do honestly. Yes, I agree. I definitely agree. Both said be free. Both bees? What were we talking about? You're a beekeeper? You like bees? Both? Cool. Robert says, what manner of fruit does the plant of life bear? So, there were those who say that the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil is the same tree. I've mentioned this. So in that case, it's one of, what is it? There are 7 opinions. We went through them at some point on the live stream. There were 7 opinions on what the tree of life, on what the tree of knowledge of good and evil was. So if you say that the tree of life will be the same tree as the knowledge of good and evil, only another time, then it would be one of those 7. And if it's a different tree altogether, I have no idea. I don't know what it would bear. I don't know what kind of fruit it would be. Evil grows from selfishness. I'm inclined to agree. Evil grows from selfishness. Or at the very least, there's a very close affinity. Because you can do very evil things while thinking you are the most selfless being on the planet. So there's no, well, you know what I mean. Evil grows, she says, and comes from selfishness. Good grows from selflessness. And Sneezer says to Ella, oh, wait, whoops, it jumped again. Where is it? Oh, man. Here. Ella, no, selfishness is good. No, selflessness is good, he says. Selflessness can only grow from self. Selflessness can grow from self. Yes, you need to know thyself a little bit before you can give away to others of yourself. Allah says you can be good without knowing. Look at trees. Do you mean good or do you mean beneficial? It's not exactly the same thing. Not necessarily. Sneezer says self being evil unless we try to be good. So we are inherently evil first and foremost. We definitely have the capacity for that. And as you know, and 2-year-olds are the most violent group on the planet. Right? Statistically speaking. Sneezer says good is not knowing. It is understanding, and trees understand what they need to. It reminds me of Perek Shira. There's I've mentioned this, a collection of verses from the Psalms, only from the Psalms, where you go through the different, let's say, creations. Right? The rocks say this, the rivers say that, the trees say this, the bee says that, the ant says this. And it's called Perek Shira, the chapter, or well, it's not chapter really, but right, the text of song, and it's the way that all of creation together is praising Adonai. That's the idea behind it. That each and one of these creations that you utter you're saying it along with it, sort of elevating it. You can be good without knowing. Look at trees. Trees understand what they need to. So, right, it's the idea that trees also have understanding. It's a tree understanding. Good and evil, says Ella, is just choice between selfish and unselfish. Well, selfish and unselfish breeds understanding and misunderstanding, so you're kind of on the same road there. And Sneezer says that is why some speak to trees. They understand. And they never judge. 100%, Ella, says he. B-Freak says Netanyahu is not a king, but he, by hook or crook, is the leader of modern Israel. Correct. Do you speak to trees? Ella asked. Well, first of all, people, do you speak to trees? Second of all, I've spoken to plants. I may have spoken to the occasional tree once or twice in my life. I don't know. It's very likely that I have, but not regularly. I'm more of a tree hugger than a tree, than a tree converser. You should watch the TV show Yellow Jackets, says Taylor26. Nice to see you again, Taylor. Ella, no, very little point. They already understand. Oh, I do. You judge. I see what you mean. Maggie, we dead? Something like that? Had a message retracted? And again, another message retracted. Okay. 13 people, please hit the like button. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. And each a frame of the entire fractal. I love that idea of the fractal. Fractaling in and out. Morg says, Jesus Christ and myself both seek to serve God and be close with Him. Well, you gotta serve somebody, as Bob Dylan says. Serve somebody. It may be the devil, it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. Ella says, religion doesn't matter what matters. Religion doesn't matter. What matters is what you choose to do in life. You can choose selfishness or selflessness. Religion don't make a good person. No, not necessarily. But it is quite a thing to fall back on. Once you make the decision, I would like to be a better person, you have Torah and commandments to help guide you. And even within those, you'll find ones that you are drawn to more and others you are drawn to less. If you choose to take on the yoke, things will be, in time, right, revealed to you, and you can start a new path. And so while it doesn't make you good, it's a place definitely as a starting point and a return point on, I'd like to be good, Adonai. How do I go about that? I'm all full of faults and problems, and I want to do better. And so for the religious person, be they Jewish or any other religion, they have, even if it's not like a doctrine or like organized faith, it's at the very least a path, rules, conduct, right? A way to be. So while it may not make you good necessarily, when you decide that you'd like to be good or when you want to be better, religion is something that can help you, by and large, go about that. And you can make the argument, yes, and then you need to step out of religion again and make it your own, carve your own path, chart your own course. Some people say, no, the religion is there so you stay and you take on the yoke and you don't differentiate yourself from anybody. You be part of a community, you do what they do when they do it, sacrifice that self for the community. Don't go full measure with what you want. Bend your will to the will of the community and you will be that much stronger for it. And people are drawn to different things. But no, religion does not make you good. No. B-Freak says, I think identifying as a Jew is one of the hardest religious ideas we can have. Well, what do you mean by identifying as a Jew? Do you mean being Jewish? In what kind of Jew? Do you mean Orthodox? Do you mean Litvish? Do you mean Yeshivish? Do you mean Reconstructionist? One of the hardest religious ideas we can have. Why do you say that, B-Freak? I'm curious. Didn't Odin suffer on a tree as well at some point? Muggy We Dead says. I don't know enough about Norse mythology, so I don't know what happened to Odin, really. Someone enlighten me. Tell me, did Odin suffer on a tree? Robert says, to Allah, religion is rules, relationship with God is better. Why not both? That's why he washed feet, Mork, said Sneezer. That's why he washed feet. That's why he washed feet. I see what you mean. Robert says, God desires for you to know him. He welcomes it. Yep, I dig that. Definitely. Sneezer says to Magi We Dead, yes, on Yasagadril, the tree of life, his gift for his suffering was runes. Okay, I'm not sure what it was supposed to... Okay, well, it wasn't for me then, it was for We Did. Morg says, I see Jesus Christ as a messenger of love, and love is what's supposed to lead man closer to God. Well, there is too much of a good thing. Love has this capacity for, for greatness, but it can also blind you. And I think that one should always remember their humanity, remember that they are that image of God, but they are still fallible. And while love does have the capacity, the ability to cover all wrongdoings, as it says in Proverbs, in Mishlei, Ahava also, right? Ahava, love, has this quality about it to bend that which is straight. That's a Talmudic phrase. Ahava mekalkelet et hashura. It needs to be handled, let's say, with caution. It's a very fragile and delicate thing, love. Many different types of love. And I think that you need to be somebody who can handle that love in a gentle and delicate and fragile way. Otherwise, it can go awry. There can be too much love, let's say. You know how people say there is no hate like Christian love? Not that I'm saying that against Christian. I've heard other Christians say this. There is no hate like Christian love. That's the type of love, let's say, that it's overkill, that it's too much, that it's the too much oil that makes the candle go bye-bye. So you need to have the right amount. You need to be able to discern. You need to have that delicate, gentle, fragile quality about you to know also when to be not those things. To have tough love, as it were, or to hate, I dare say. Maybe hate's too strong. But, and I don't mean that as misunderstand and understand in the way that Sneezer says it. I'm all for understanding and building bridges. As for love leading men closer to God, while you can make the argument that there is such a thing as love and too much of a good thing, and the too much oil puts out the candle, definitely I agree as an idea, yes, love is what's supposed to lead man closer to God. I definitely agree with that. Love, my God. Sneezer says to Mork, exactly, God being unconditional love for all that can exist. Allah says, tree of life bears the fruit of life. Ah, there you go. Ignorance is evil in many cases, says We Dead. Ignorance is evil in many cases. Could be, and if it's not evil, it definitely puts you in a position to be suckered in by evil. Because there's a difference between being ignorant and between being, let's put it this way. There's a difference between being ignorant and staying ignorant. I guess that would be No, what am I? To be ignorant means you can also feign ignorance. That's what I mean. And that can be evil. The fruit of life is understanding, said Sneezer. Oh, wait, it jumped again. It jumped again. Here. Blood Note says fruit contains sugar and seeds, at least that much. Well, it'll be a different kind of fruit as I see it. Blood Note's good addition, the seeds are surely important, as is the energy. I disagree. He says, I disagree. God is exactly beneficial. That's why God made it, and why God gives it time to become good. Right. People say that's, if you had to sum up God in one word, it would be good. Right? The Creator wanted to benefit His creation. Sinitzer says, though oftentimes feels like much too much, especially others. Everything but man was good by its first day. Yeah, see, we're the ones who screwed everything up, and now we're going to bring it full circle. Yes, we will. And we will merit it. Yes, we will. Robert says, Yeshua said no one is good but God. They called him good rabbi. Correction, man was God for only its first day. Man was God? You mean man was good? Everything but man was good? And man was God? Okay, I'm not sure what you mean, man. God loves creation. I believe Jesus Christ, says Mark, was a messenger sent to remind us to love him back. Now, that's a fine message. I'm definitely on board with that message. On that note of love, I will say thank you to all of you here, every like, every sub, every view, those watching now, those watching later. And Eiler, I haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for hitting me up in the DMs. I answered you there. And you people who are watching who are new or I don't know what. I don't post much on other channels and stuff, platforms, but hook me, we can hook up in the DMs if you want. Hebrew Nazarite, look for my tree. I hope that I will see you on Friday. Maybe I'll continue this on Friday, maybe not. Maybe I'll continue it on Monday. I hope to do something on Friday, because I barely did anything last week. But at any rate, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, your kind attention, your contributions. This has been so much fun. I don't take it for granted that I'm sitting here talking to you on this fine Wednesday evening. Hey, and all over this country, people are... Hey, and here I am. I'm able to do this. This is no small thing. Hey, peace, love, positivity, good vibrations to us all. Be blessed. Be a blessing to others. Catch you later.